The UFC is wasting a lot of time with its superstar. And I know what some of you are thinking already. Superstar, how are you going to call Khamzat a superstar? If you're a fan, you get it. If not, let me break it down to you. A superstar is someone that everybody has an opinion on, whether they like the guy or they don't like the guy. You know who he is if you're an MMA fan. Therefore, he's a superstar.
Broadcasting live from an undisclosed location. This is The Community MMA with your host, Chris Cross.
Everybody's upset. Everybody's upset. Everybody's upset.
Khamzat Chimaev! This guy's stock is rising fast. Khamzat Chimaev! This guy's stock is rising fast. Fast. Khamzat Chimaev!
Everybody's upset.
Welcome to the Community MMA. It's your boy Chris Cross, and that's right, everybody's upset on this beautiful day because Khamzat Chimaev tweeted today. Or maybe it wasn't a tweet, I could be mistaken on that. He did something. He wrote a message and said, "I'll see you after Ramadan." And if you don't know what Ramadan is, first and foremost, it's a time in which Muslims fast. I don't profess to be an expert on this topic. You know, I'm a Christian. But at the same time, I do know that this is a time of year when Muslims fast. And their type of fasting means they're not eating while the sun is up. They're only eating while the sun is down. I'm not sure about the drinking part. But I do know everything happens when the sun is down and nothing happens when the sun is up. So it's a tough time for a fighter to fight. And we saw this last year when Khamzat fought Gilbert Burns. He looked sluggish. He had a tough time making weight. He was far from 100%, but the guy still got the victory, right? At the end of the day, Khamzat Chimaev still won that fight. So he's not going to fight until at least April 22nd when Ramadan comes to an end. It's about a full month. And will he be ready to fight that day? I don't think so. You're looking at May or June now. And the UFC is wasting a lot of time with its superstar. And I know what some of you are thinking already. Superstar, how are you going to call Khamzat a superstar? If you're a fan, you get it. If not, let me break it down to you. A superstar is someone that everybody has an opinion on, whether they like the guy or they don't like the guy. You know who he is if you're an MMA fan. Therefore, he's a superstar. When you have a guy that a lot of people don't have an opinion on, and most people don't know, they're not a superstar. Conor McGregor, love him or hate him, he's a superstar. There's not one person in the MMA community that does not know who Conor McGregor is. Now, you might like him and you might not like him. It is what it is. But these guys are superstars. And the UFC is wasting a huge talent in Khamzat Chimaev, keeping him on the sidelines while they're having all these UFC rematches. And I know people are getting sick and tired of it.
Everybody's upset.
Especially if you're a Khamzat fan like myself. If you're not, you're just like, whatever. But, you know, you're giving guys like Jamal Hill, number 7 contender, a shot at the title. They're giving other contenders like Alex Pereira a shot at the title. And what happened? Both of these guys won. But you got a guy in Khamzat Chimaev who's number 3 and is beating people in a way that we've never seen before, keeping his opponents at all zeros up and down the board in several fights. It's called being Khamzat. Like Derek Lewis got beat a couple weeks ago. Zeros up and down the board. He got Khamzat. That's the new term, baby. And you're wasting a huge talent like this, a superstar, keeping him on the sidelines. A guy that fought like 4 times in 2 months or somewhere along those lines when he first came out. And now you won't get the guy a fight. When he's primed and ready for a title shot, he's got to sit through 2 rematches featuring Usman and Adesanya, 2 guys that got finished. I'm sorry, but if you get finished for the title, I don't care if you've had it for 20 straight fights, you got to come back and beat somebody to get a title shot. Khamzat Chimaev, or whoever's name that will be in a few years from now, deserves an immediate title shot if they're running through people like Khamzat is. I mean, the guy is absolutely running through people, and he's forced to continue to sit on the sideline. This is a huge mistake by the UFC, in my opinion, in one man's opinion. It's just a mistake. Because if this guy fights for the title, he'll do more views in any Adesanya fight, any Usman fight, any other fighter that we know right now, not named Conor McGregor. If he fights for the title, it will be top 10 pay-per-view, hands down, because he has a huge following among the people. He's number one on my do list for a reason. One, because I believe in the guy and that he's the future, but two, because he has a big following. And there's a lot of hype around him. And we're going to back the hype up. So long as it lasts. We will keep it real with you. But as long as it lasts, we're going to stand right behind the hype.
Yes!
No doubt.
Yes!
We're going to stand right there with Khamzat from beginning to end. But the fact that they're keeping this guy on the sidelines is a huge mistake. And I know some of you think that the UFC is not offering him fights. They have to. They got to offer each contracted fighter, if I'm not mistaken, 3 fights throughout the year. Now, if that fighter says no to all 3, then it's going to look like the UFC isn't offering them fights, but it's not made public, okay? So the reality is the UFC is offering Khamzat Chimaev fights, but it's not fights that he wants to take. It's against guys that are below him, like Nate Diaz. Why would you want to fight Nate Diaz? It's absolutely ridiculous. I don't blame him for missing weight. There's no reason to make weight to fight Nate Diaz. Who cares? What does that do for you if you win? And I think the UFC was hoping he'd just go in there and beat Nate Diaz pretty good and send Nate Diaz on his way. But it didn't turn out like that. Now, of course, you got some people weighing in on this topic. Kenneth Bruner, a big one, says, right on, Chris, Khamzat's hardest fight wasn't against Burns. It's against the incompetence of the UFC. I'm very concerned about the future talent in the UFC and really how the UFC will handle these situations, is more or less what Bruner is alluding to. And he's right. It makes you worry about that. There's probably guys that could come along the way that could be guys that could win titles, but they have a small window of 1 to 2 years. Khamzat might have 5 or 6. But some of these guys that have small windows, by the time they get to the title fight, or maybe they never do because that window closes because they're sitting around and wait. You can't have all these rematches when the rematches are going to take up a year and a half. It's not fair to all the other fighters. There's got to be a proper order. If you lose a close split decision or maybe a 48-47 on all 3, then fine. But not if you get finished. I mean, there's got to be rules to this. Miami Explorer says the UFC is wasting a talent in Khamzat. Too bad. He's spending his years of max athleticism fighting once a year. Can't say it better than that. That's exactly what's happening. Al Tapo Maktapo, the voice of reason, says the UFC had 8 months to give him a fight. It stinks for us fans. Zarab Dreamer says, you're a living example of perseverance and relentless spirit. Do what you do best. Be yourself. Much appreciated. Michael Hayward, rematch fights should not happen right after both fighters have just fought. Give other fighters a shot. And that's the bottom line. You got to give these other fighters a shot. I mean, you're giving Jamal Hill, number 7, a shot. You're giving Alex Pereira a shot. Because if it makes dollars, it makes sense. And what I'm trying to tell you is no one's going to make more dollars for you than Khamzat Chimaev. I would have told Usman to stand in line. Go fight a 2 or 3 contender, win that fight, and you're right back in line as the former champion, but let Khamzat and Leon Edwards fight it out. That's just the way it's got to be. That's just the way it's got to be. There's no question about it. You got to stand in line. But instead, you're going to take your future, right? Let's fast forward 3 years. Khamzat is going to be around. Usman's going to be either retired or not the same fighter he is now. So you're taking your future and just dismissing it. And to me, that's a terrible mistake. And I'm not saying Khamzat should leave the UFC, but that's a guy right there that if he leaves the UFC and goes to another promotion, that could change the game forever. And I definitely don't want to see that happen because I'm a UFC fan. The best promotion in MMA by far. We don't want like a fragmented sport like boxing became, where you have 6 different champions in the same weight class, and it's nearly impossible to get them to fight one another because the promotions can't agree. So we want to keep UFC where it's at, but you can't be doing this to fighters. That's just the bottom line. You just can't be doing this to fighters. Now, on a side note, Joe Rogan has been weighing in about these controversial decisions, right? We've had a lot of decisions that have been very controversial because you got a 10-point scoring system. So he went on to discuss this after Volkanovski and Makhachev went to battle. He says, we were convinced we might have been biased. We might have to watch it again. I mean, I don't think so. My eyes, I thought it was 3-2 to Volkanovski. And some people did think that. I didn't think that. I thought it was 3-2 or 4-1. I would lean 3-2 Makhachev, but definitely not 3-2 Volkanovski. That was pretty clear to me, at least from my opinion. He goes on to say there's several problems, but one of the problems is that I feel we were limited by this 10-9. This 10-point must-scoring system. Someone can win a round 10-9 and it can be a very close round, and someone can win a round clearly and it could be a 10-9. That doesn't make any sense to me. The system is designed for boxing, and it's a good system for boxing. I don't think it's a good system for MMA. And how long have we been saying this? Don't get me wrong, it means more when Joe Rogan says it. But how long have we been saying this? And I don't want them to come up with a different system in terms of, scorecards. I want there to be a point system that's like football or basketball or any other sport on the planet that we could all look up and see the score, or we can look on the TV and see the score right now, and so can the fighters. And all of a sudden, with a minute left, it's 110 to 105 or however it works out. And all you need to know is I need to start swinging. I either need to finish this guy because I'm down, or I got to get some punches landed more than him to get these 5 points back and win the fight at the bell. That's exciting to me. I know you get the drama. The big drama is when you have a championship belt like Islam and Alexander Volkanovski. No doubt when Bruce Buffer says, and you're waiting for and new or and still, that's exciting. But at the same time, it's even more exciting to watch sports like football and basketball when we all can see the score. We know the drama that's in play. And the best thing about UFC is there's no timeouts. This drama is happening in real time. There's no first down that stops the clock. There's no getting out of bounds, right? There's no getting fouled in basketball. I mean, this is going to happen in real time, and it's going to be some of the most exciting stuff you'd ever see if they had a point system. But how long, if ever, will it take us to get there? Because it really comes down to the boxing commission, oddly enough, not the UFC. The UFC can't just say, hey, this is what we're going to do now. But it's up to the boxing commission, believe it or not. Now, let's roll right into some big fights we got for this weekend. Right, let's start with the fight of the night, in our opinion. That's going to be a heavyweight division fight between Augusto Sakai and Don'Tale Mayes. Let's get to it. In the heavyweight division at UFC Fight Night, you got Augusto Sakai, the Brazilian, coming in at 15-5. We know what he's all about. Don'Tale Mayes, a few less fights, but he's 9-4. So you got two pretty solid heavyweights here. And to me, someone is going down in this fight. When I say going down, not over 3 rounds, but going down. Mayes, 3 inches taller at 6'6". He's got a 4-inch reach advantage, 81-77. Both guys stand right-handed. Now, in terms of activity, that goes to Augusto Sakai. He's like 4.7 significant strikes every minute. So over the course of the fight, he's looking at anywhere between 60 and 75 significant strikes. Mayes about 1 less per minute at 3.7. But Mayes can land a takedown every now and then. He usually gets 1 takedown per 3 rounds. So considering this goes a distance, he'll get a takedown, and what can he do with it? But on the feet, he's moving at a much slower pace in terms of activity. Now Sakai, 33% takedown defense. So that's something that Don'Tale Mayes can expose. He's also lost 4 fights in a row to Overeem, Rosenstruik, Tuivasa, and Spivak. So, 3 tough fights in a row. He was KO'd in all 4. But before that, he won 4 in a row in the UFC and at the Contender Series. So right now he's 4-4 overall in the UFC. Don'Tale Mayes lost, had a no contest in his last fight against Hamdi Abdelwahab. Before that, he beat Josh Parisian by KO. Roque Martinez, decision. So 2 decent fighters here. But listen, Augusto Sakai is the better fighter. Now that he's lost 4 in a row, they're going to keep lowering the level of competition. Just like when a guy keeps winning, they up the level of competition. And eventually, I should say, they lower the competition to a point where, okay, you're going to win this fight. And that's what this is for Augusto Sakai. I think he wins this fight by KO, in my opinion, to move to 16-5 here in the heavyweight division at UFC Fight Night. Yeah, so we got Augusto Sakai winning this fight, but it's not going to be easy. I mean, to me, this is a very tough fight. Again, he's on a losing streak, and the level of competition is going to diminish until you can get a win or you just get booted from the UFC. So his back is against the wall, and that's important. And when you look at what people are saying, not a lot of votes on this one, but 53 to 47% in favor of Augusto Sakai. And that's about where I'm at. I'd say 60-40, but that's about where I'm at. It's kind of a coin flip, and you got to pick one. But I like Augusto Sakai to sneak out the victory in this one. Now, let's keep it moving, because next up, you got the co-main event. Check this out. In the middleweight division at UFC Fight Night, you got Andre Muniz, the Brazilian, coming in at 23-4. Brendan Allen, and both of these guys are veterans. Brendan Allen is a veteran with 20 wins, 5 losses. So you're going to get a great fight here. Allen is 1 inch taller at 6'2", but he's given up 3 inches in reach, 78-75 in favor of Muniz. Muniz is a southpaw, left-hander. Allen stands right-handed, so you got opposite stance fighters. In this, look for leg kicks a lot. Allen, 4 significant strikes per minute, pretty active, just 1.9 for Muniz, who's trying to get takedowns. So that's going to be a big story in this fight. He lands about 3.7 over 3 rounds, so he's getting more than 1 takedown every round that he's in the octagon. Allen looking to get a takedown every other round. So takedown defense will become important. Muniz, 45%, not very good. Allen, 50%, not very good. So look for takedowns to be a factor in this fight, which would favor Andre Muniz. And he's on a 7-fight win streak since entering the UFC. So 7-fight win streak in his last 7. Well, 2 of those came at Dana White's Contender Series, so he's 5-0 in the UFC, beating Antonio Arroyo, Bartosz Fabinski, Jacare Souza, Eric Anders, and Uriah Hall. So impressive run for Muniz. But we all know all-in Brendan Allen is a really good fighter. He's won 3 in a row too against Sam Alvey, Jacob Malkoun, and Krzysztof Jotko. 2 out of 3 of those were submission victories. So you got 2 guys trending in the right direction. This is what we're seeing at UFC Vegas 70, is we're seeing guys with a lot of momentum being matched up, and it doesn't change here. It's really hard for me to go against Brendan Allen, but I just think Andre Muniz is a better fighter. I mean, the Brazilian can land takedowns. He's going to expose Brendan Allen's lack of takedown defense. I like to see Brendan Allen land a lot of leg kicks early to kind of slow the charge from Muniz, or at least make him think about going for those takedowns. That's how he can keep him off. So we'll see if he'll utilize that. I mean, if Brendan Allen can keep the fight standing, he's going to win the fight. Muniz needs to take the fight to the ground and do it that way. But Brendan Allen is good down there too. But I'm going to lean towards Andre Muniz to get the victory here by a very slim margin. And it's hard for me to go with guys that don't have a lot of activity on the feet. But I'm banking on the fact that Muniz gets these takedowns and controls it on the ground. In doing so, in my opinion, he'll win and move to 24-4 here in the middleweight division at UFC Fight Night. And this time the people are with me, 78% of those polled. And this is just so far. This will grow up to 100 to 200 votes when it's all said and done. But bottom line is, at the end of the day, a lot of people, 4 out of 5 almost, are taking Andre Muniz, and that makes me feel a little bit better about this prediction. But again, it can't be overstated that it's very tough to go against Brendan Allen. He's like a Jim Miller in the lightweight division. It's not, he may lose, but it's not an easy out. Make no mistake about it. Now let's get into the main event. This is a big one. Light heavyweight division, Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Superman Spann. Check this out. In the light heavyweight division at UFC Fight Night, you got Nikita Krylov taking on Ryan Spann. Krylov, ever the veteran, 29-9. Spann, also a veteran, 21-7 overall. Now, believe it or not, Ryan Spann is a pretty tall guy. He's 6'5" and 2 inches taller than Krylov. He's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Both guys fight right-handed. In terms of activity, that goes to Krylov. He lands about 4.5 significant strikes per minute, right on the average or just above average for an average, for a UFC fighter. Spann a little less active with 3.4 per minute. So you look over the course of 25 minutes, potentially, that's 25 more significant strikes for Nikita Krylov. Now, the takedown game goes with Krylov, too. 2 over the course of 3 rounds. Ryan Spann, about 1.5 over 3 rounds, or 1 takedown every other round. So Krylov leads in both areas, or at least has slightly better numbers. Now, Krylov, 53% takedown defense. That's not great. He's coming off wins against Oezdemir by decision, and he KO'd Gustafsson. So he's on a 2-fight win streak. Before that, he lost to Paul Craig and Magomed Ankalaev, 2 really good fighters, in my opinion. Now, Superman Spann, 50% takedown defense. So what that tells you, both guys in the 50s, well below average. We might get some takedowns in this fight. Whoever can step it up on the takedown defense will win this fight. Now, Ryan Spann beat Dominic Reyes in his last fight. That was kind of shocking, right? I mean, Dominic Reyes really has fallen off. That KO came in the first round. Also, he beat Ian Kudalaba by submission in the first round. So this guy is trending in the right direction. Before that, he lost to Anthony Smith, Johnny Walker, but he did beat Sam Alvey and Misha Cirkunov. So that's how it lays out. Now, this is an easy one for me. I'm going with the favorite this time. I like Nikita Krylov simply because he's got better numbers, right? These are 2 veterans, so their numbers mean a lot because they're going to stick right around those averages, and that tells me that Nikita Krylov, the longer it goes, he's going to land more significant strikes. He's going to land more takedowns. You know, he's looking at 3 or 4 takedowns over the fight. Ryan Spann, 2, maybe 3. So who can do more with those takedowns, and who can step up in the area of takedown defense will lead to that person winning this fight. But I think Krylov's got a better opportunity to do so, just simply based on the numbers, and he's a better fighter. But Spann makes me nervous because he's trending in the right direction right now. And sometimes when you got these guys that are veterans, they hit the right age, you got to dismiss almost all previous fights and look at the last 2 or 3, and both of these guys trending in the right way. But I like Nikita Krylov to win this fight, likely by decision, to move to 30-9. Ryan Spann will fall to 21-8, light heavyweight division, main event at UFC Fight Night. Yeah, so we got to go with Nikita Krylov. He's the favorite. We got to get back in the win column. We're 4-1 in the main event. Would have been 5-0 if it wasn't for Jessica Andrade falling to Aaron Blanchfield last week. We started out 4-0, starting out in the right direction. But if we lose this one, a losing streak, we don't want that. We went all the way to July last year before the first back-to-back missed predictions in the main event. Now, in terms of what the people are saying, they're against me on this one. Barely. 53% say Ryan Superman Spann will win the fight. And it's very close. And I think, you know, when you listen to their prediction, I sound that way too. It could be very close. But to me, Nikita Krylov is just the better fighter and should be able to pull out this victory. Looking forward to it. I can't wait to see how this thing plays out. But for now, we're going to have to wrap it up. Khamzat Chimaev out through Ramadan. Joe Rogan doesn't like the 10-point scoring system. And we got Nikita Krylov winning this fight. Until next time, this your boy Chris Cross. I hope you have a great day, and God bless. Peace.